Sounds familiar.
So that was Monday, Tuesday. Then they let it burn all around the hill. They would not put it out. So we decided, well, we're going to put it out. They sent the sheriff down there, deputy down, said, you go put that out and we will have you arrested.
The sheriff's deputy?
Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
Yep.
Wow.
Right in the French Queen Hotel. We got witnesses to that. But I said, what do you mean? You're going to arrest us for putting a fire out? You're interfering with firefighting operations and we will have you arrested.
So he
He's
wouldn't
the
do-
sheriff, though. That's
So
pretty
he
cool.
wouldn't do anything to protect you and your property.
Hmm.
But he was doing everything he could to protect even just their actions of destroying your guys' property.
And they told us that they wanted that fire to keep coming. And it was obvious because they weren't doing anything. They had some bad luck. We had a wind blowing the opposite direction
Right.
what it normally blows for most of that day. And so it just kept it slowly crept. And then finally they were losing their heat for the day. And they started lighting it all along the highway. They got that
Right.
video where they lighten more of it. And then finally they lit it all the way right above the hill here and then took it another 5 miles back off of an old Jeep trail. And so that was that day. The next day I called my neighbors over at Diamond who run cows out on west of Diamond on the desert. I said, you better get to moving your cows, they're going to burn you out. And guy says, well, I talked to him earlier this morning. They said there's nothing anywhere close, and it's basically out.
So you warned him that they're going to burn his cattle.
Yeah. And he said, no, there's no fire. Because they told me this morning that there's nothing to worry about.
Hang on. I'm sorry.
And yet they were. Oh my gosh.
Modern equipment.
Good when it works. Get a bigger hand.
Yeah.
I just got too many friends right now, I guess. Okay, done. So, let's see here. All right.
So anyway, I told him, I said, get to moving your cows. He said, well, there's nothing going. Because I ain't going to move them. I hate, push them off the desert. I'll never get them out.
Right.
Wrong time of the year. He never turn around and go back with them. And I said, start moving. I'm telling you, they're going to light it again today. Because every day, I mean, they weren't out at daylight fighting fire. They were in meetings and stuff until 10, 11 o'clock, and then they'd go out. And invariably, between 11 and 1 o'clock, they'd fire it up again.
So this refuge has a great big center for people that all they do is come out here and burn. I mean, everything inside it just talks about
That's what
burning.
that whole facility is right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just to
that's
burn.
who my neighbors are.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fire starters.
Yeah.
Fire,
Fire starters.
yeah. Not firefighters, fire lighters.
No.
Right.
But
Oh,
anyway, so I told Buck, well, I'm telling you, they're gonna light it. And we had some cattle on ground out there too. And Colton and I headed for the mountain. Our horses were on the steams to grab our horses. Did, but before we left, right here on top of the hill, they didn't even get out of sight. Lit it up and headed that way on the other side of that road that they burnt the night before. Lit it off, clear back to Red Dunbar's place on the other side of the road, and then started lighting down the highway here, headed north. We got out.
You might have to do this with somebody else's phone.
I'm working on
I'm not even cussing on you.
I'm hoping we're getting it. We got it going now.
Got it. Sorry.
Okay.
So we headed out and got close, and talking to Buck on the phone, and said, Buck, get things moving. He told me he was out there, but there was nothing going on. He goes, no, I just talked to some guys in the deal in a pumper truck. They told me that there was nothing to worry about. And I said, I'm telling you, it's coming. About 5 minutes later, a big plume of smoke went up. And you can tell when a fire reignites itself. The tree
Sure.
gets to burn or something flares up. There's a little smoke, more smoke, more smoke. Not this. It's the same as every day. Big plume because you got a bunch of guys with drip torches along a road or something and just lighting, a lot of country on fire all at once. calls me and says, holy shit, we got fire on top of us. And they lit it just over the hill from them, coming in higher man. They made a run for their rig. There was other neighbors actually gathering cattle, horseback. Colton and I got to where our cattle were at. We're about a half a mile away from the field. And the fire was just over the hill from us, about a mile away. And I told Colton, I said, you just stay right here. We parked in kind of an old lake bed, water hole, so pickup would have been safe parked. I said, you just stay right here. And I'm going to get horseback, and I'm just going to go cut fences. We don't have time to move cows. All we can do is cut fences, and hopefully they'll get out. The wind was blowing so hard that we had no idea how fast that fire could come. And it came over the hill within 2 minutes. Didn't even get my horse unloaded. Came over the hill, and it was obvious then it was a run for our lives. And we didn't know where our neighbors were at. So we jumped back in the pickup. Got to forget the cows. We run to get out because we had other cattle and horses in another location, so it's obvious it's going to get there too. So we made a run for there, and it took about, 20 minutes, Golden, to get from where we were at, and the fire traveled 5 miles in about 20 to 30 minutes and hit where we were at. Luckily, there's big enough rim rocks and stuff and stopped it. And so then at that point, we're scared for our friends, and got a hold of one hired man on the phone. He goes, we broke through it. He goes, damn near didn't make it, but we broke through it and got in the lake bed. The guy's horseback were far enough to quit gathering, got a bunch of cows into the lake bed and held them up while the fire went around them. So it ended up, no lives were lost, but very scary, really close, and it was lit.
And no charges on them.
No investigation.
Yeah.
So no charges. So that's where we're at, on the fire, and it happens every year.
And was that's the one you filmed, or was that another one?
That was the one that I filmed. The start of the fire here.
Okay.
And they just kept making
And
it
then
bigger.
they kept making them, so that was later on another day.
Yeah, and I never got video of that part of it. There becomes a point
Yeah.
that you are trying to survive and you're doing things that you can't stop the video.
That's right.
I wish we'd have had a video of all that, but there was no opportunity to stop and take a shot.
So they wouldn't even let you come to court or say any of these types of things,
They
even
never had an
when they had to.
investigation.
Never
couldn't
had
even-
investigation. I mean, we talked to the local
Did you
sheriff's
fi-
department, BLM.
You filed complaints, but it went
Yeah,
nowhere.
I mean, it's just nothing.
Did you put a written report in, or did you just call them and tell them?
Did not put a written request
Yeah,
in,
but
knowing that it's not going anywhere. I mean, we know where it's at.
But he's
So-
obligated, if you
You call him, he's
present
got to respond.
Well, by law, he's supposed to,
Mm-hmm.
if you report a crime, he's supposed to investigate. That's
Yeah, I mean,
that's by
the
law.
law
Yeah.
enforcement will
Yeah.
not. In another event, what was that, last year? Year before.
The fire right down there, yeah,
Down at River Cross.
yeah. Not
So
last
we,
summer, but the summer before.
yeah. So we started a Rangeland Fire Association. We found out in that process that they cannot tell you to leave. If you're there, if you have property in jeopardy, if it's your property or property in jeopardy, you have every right to be there and fight fire. So what they told me about arresting me up here was crap. I had every right to go up and put the fire out.
Right.
And so we started this Rangeland Fire Association. Fire started south of here. I went down to investigate, called Rutt, pumper truck. Again, the first thing that they did was try to stop me from getting there. And I went anyway. But immediately they called law enforcement. The law enforcement showed up, trying to get rid of us.
Now, it was the sheriff again?
No, it was the feds, or the
The BLM.
BLM law
Yeah,
enforcement,
okay.
George Orwell.
Right.
Showed up, and well, there was some sheriff guys there too, I guess. Anyway, we weren't doing anything except observing the fire, but they had to, and they were lighting when we got there. When I got there, they were lighting, And they all went and sit down when they saw me show up and quit lighting. And so Colton and I investigated the fire and just kind of keeping an eye out. And when we get out of sight, they'd light fire again. So, same old.
Wow.
So it's a
What-
hard one to control.
What do you think their motive mostly is?
Money.
Yeah.
They don't make money when they're in the fire. They make money when they're fire. And the bigger, the more money they get. So it's money.
I heard one of the local guys, I can't remember his name, he said, Black Earth, green pocket or something like that.
That's kind of about the truth.
Yeah, Black Earth, green pocket.
Well, you know, the environmentalists talk about overgrazing and, you know, the damage the cows do and sheep and livestock do out grazing. Like, it's been my experience, fire overgrazing.
Right.
I mean, it takes
That's the simplicity of it.
Yeah,
That's a good way to put it.
That's an excellent way.
I've never seen the cows eat the juniper trees, the brush, any of that, that fire does. You know, and that's
And
kind of
homes.
the reason that we have fires, and that's some of that mismanagement, as you well know. You kept, when I was a kid growing up, there was no BLM fire. Forest Service had some firefighting capability, I guess, in the forest, but mostly then it was the loggers and ranchers in the forest that took care of the fires too, and a little bit from Forest Service. That out here, there was nothing until the mid-1970s before there was ever any BLM firefighting equipment or crews at all, and it was pretty minimal. But prior to that, we took care of the fires.
Right.
You know, we had a D4 cat and a pull-behind bean sprayer with a 100-gallon tank, and if something flared up, popped up, you went out and put it out and went back to work.
Right.
But, you know, once they started, they were actually pretty active and good at jumping on, putting fires out in the early years, but then they figured out that money thing. And then, I mean, if you put it on a graph, the acres burnt from back then was small to now it's huge. And actually the budgets for firefighting were small back then, the budgets are huge, but it just goes up together. Wouldn't it be the other way around?
And I would bet the firefighter count, is small then and goes up with it.
It all goes up. The more budget you get, the fire acres should go down, I would
yeah.
think. But anyway, so it's pretty plain that,
Yeah.
what goes
Nothing
on.
to do with about putting out fires. It's all about.
And I do know, you know, talking to firefighters over the years, they actually made statements pissed off at the cows because you know what happens when it hits a pasture that's been grazed pretty good. It doesn't have to be overeaten, but the fuels are knocked down, the fire peters out. So it's, you know, pretty
Let's
common
slow them
knowledge
up.
that they cut down the permits, or cut down the grazing in the allotments to grow, so there's more fuel. And that's one of it isn't to save the wildlife, why you should cut your AUMs in half. They're doing it so the fire will burn.
Of course.
That's interesting. Never fully made that
Yeah.
connection.
You know,
Yeah.
with grazing, utilizing it like it should be
Yeah.
utilized, it won't burn that.
Yeah, I realize that, but I just never put it one step further where that's the reason why they're not grazing it, because they want it to burn.
One of the reasons.
Yeah, one of the reasons, yeah.
One of the reasons is just to financially
Right.
people. The other reason is so they can get it burned.
You think they're trying to just push you guys all off the land?
Oh, absolutely. There's members of BLM that'll tell you that.
What do they say?
Well, I'll tell you a little story to do with that. I got a lot of them, really.
Good, good.
You guys like some water or something?
Yeah, you guys want a cup of coffee, water?
Can I get in a little water?
Drink the
I'll
water.
have some water too.
I'm gonna have to take them up on coffee. I know I'm going against word of wisdom.
Actually, I'll have one too.
Coffee? Yeah.
This is,
Sorry, we weren't being very good hosts.
no, that's fine.
Oh, he offered earlier.
He actually did offer earlier, but I've been up for a long time trying to make sure we're okay. And
Yeah. I mentioned that I started outfitting,
Right.
and all went pretty well with that for several years. A lot of my trips, most of my trips were not hunting trips. They were just summer sightseeing trips. trail rides, overnight camp out, you know, all pretty much horse oriented. And as well as van type tours and just scenic tours, interpretive tours, educational type of stuff.
Good.
I don't remember what year it was, but it must have been like 93, 4.
Black Fawn.
Somewhere along in there.
Yeah.
They brought a new area manager in BLM.
Do you remember his name?
Miles Brown.
Your coffee.
I didn't even know there was a Miles Brown around until I got a letter in the mail that says your outfitting permit has been terminated. And so I called the recreation specialist and said, what's going on? He goes, I don't know. And I said, I haven't done anything wrong with the permit, have I? And he goes, no, I'll check into it. So he calls me back and says, well, can you come in? And so I said, yeah, I'll come in. So met with this Miles Brown. I said, so what's going on? He goes, well, they didn't do the paperwork when they first started your permit back in '96. And they didn't do all the paperwork right, so have to terminate. I said, well, that's not my fault. You know, I've been a good operator here. He goes, well, it's terminated. So I had to get a little bit crappy with him. And through the course of, I mean, it took quite a bit of my dollars and time. I did save my permit. That's where it couldn't take it.
Right.
But in the meeting with him, it was Miles, the area manager, Tom Dyer, the district manager, and Mark Sherborne, the realty specialist. The three of them in the room together, and they were harping on me about how I had to operate. And they were just trying to put stipulations on it that made it difficult to operate. I'll give you examples of that. Doesn't really matter. So I finally said to the guys, I said, so what, you know, you guys are harping on us over one thing over another. I said, so what's your bottom line? What's your agenda? And this Miles looked at one guy and looked over at the other. He goes, hell, I'll say it. We want to own all the land and control all the easements. And I said, well, I realize that, but you know what country you live in here? But that was his statement. We want to own, and that's straight from BLM right there. I wish I'd have had that recorded.
Yeah, that would have.
You want to, own all the land and what? Own all.
Control all the uses. And so, yeah, I brushed him off, but as I started out the door, he says, we'll buy your property. And I said, it's not for sale. He says, it will be. Just like that. It will be.
Unbelievable. And
And
who?
so-
What was this guy's name again?
Miles Brown.
Miles. So that it came from the one who sent you the letter.
And the recreation specialist, he was just sick about it. I mean, it was out of his control.
Because he was pretty, from what I've heard, good
Okay.
things about him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was a good guy. We got along good. We had, you know, I was an asset to them as far as rescues and
Sure,
you
they
name
used
it,
you
on
for
that.
what's
Being out-
convenient.
Well, we did all the trail things for everybody, and, you know, the goal was to get rid of it, which I knew was the goal. So, I can't remember exactly how long.
You made it.
Then we got more stipulations laid on us
Some good stuff.
that really made it tough to operate. I.e., we did 5-day overnight camp trips, and I go in ahead of time, set up my camp, my tents, like outfitters do everywhere. And then you run a group of people in, you take them out, you bring another group in 2 days later. So they put a stipulation in my permit. You have to take your camp down between each trip. So
Wow.
it takes me 2 days, it takes me 2 days to get it in, set it up, and the day to take it down, get it out. We don't care, we gotta take it down in between trips, so that's nonsense.
It is not.
So I just kind of ignored it, and
Right.
kept going. But then I got a letter, I had a sign up here on the main road, and my place is, my driveway turns off. And years ago, when I first started outfitting, I got permission from BLM to put up a directional sign, I had my name, my outfit on it, and arrow. So, right after this meeting, we told me I'd sell out sooner or later. I got a letter that said, actually I didn't get a letter, the law enforcement guy stop by and give me a ticket for having a sign there without a right of way. And I said, I didn't know I needed a right of way for a sign, but
Now it's still BLM,
that was,
law enforcement?
yeah, BLM law
Okay.
enforcement. And, but give me the citation, and I was supposed to move the sign. And I said, well, I have permission to have it there. And I said, I'm not gonna move it without a letter that says that I can move, because I was worried if I moved it, then I get another ticket for disturbing the celebrate. So anyway, they cited me, I went to court.
$10,000.
Went to the front of the magistrate and then over the deal. But prior to getting there, the prosecuting attorney called me and he goes, so what's this about? And I said, if you want to know, I'll tell you. They want me out of there and they want my ground, and here's what it means. If I'm convicted of placing a sign there without authorization, then I have a federal violation and they can pull my permit. So that was the deal. And so he said, well, did you have permission? I said, yeah, I have permission. He goes, can you prove it? I said, yeah, I can prove it, but I'm telling the wrong guy here. He goes, no, I want to know. He goes, this sounds like the most ridiculous damn case I've ever heard of. They were seeking a $100,000 fine.
Wow.
And it could be 5 years in jail.
What kind of sign was it?
It was my direction.
A directional sign,
It's
says
the
it's ducked over here.
The name of my company was Steens Mountain Packers, and it said Steens Mountain Packers on the sign and an arrow pointing, which, you know.
Just to your camp, to
my
your
camp.
camp?
Yeah, about a mile off the road. So anyway, I had to go in front of the magistrate, and the magistrate, I subpoenaed the guy out of BLM to give me permission to put the sign there years ago. And he said, yeah, I'll tell him I did. I mean, and then they didn't require all the crap to put it in. I mean, it's kind of, you know, grandfathered in, but anyway, so the magistrate, I represented myself, and I called the district manager up on it, because there was no place in the regulations that said I really had to have it for my sign.
Okay.
So anyway, I called him up and I tried to get it out of him, so show me where it says this. He hand-hauled around and didn't say anything, and finally the magistrate says, excuse me, Mr. Woodson, he's not gonna answer any questions. Then he says, do you mind if I ask him some questions? It's your witness on the stand. So I said, have at it. The magistrate just drilled him, I mean, hard. He was mad about it, he was wasting his time with this case.
Right.
And so then the prosecuting attorney got up and he drilled on him. He was supposed to be going after me, but he drilled on these guys. So I left there. In the meantime, they'd sent me a letter, and I did move the sign, trying to show good faith. You know. So I moved the sign, but when I left there, I was excused from the charges, but the BLM had to put a sign up for me. So
Did they put the same sign back up?
no, they ended up putting a little sign there. But, so that obviously stuck under their skin for a long time.
Because they had to eat crow.
Yeah. But the whole goal there was getting that violation so that I could lose my permit.
Right. Right.
Then in another event, they went after our access, saying that we didn't have a right to access our property. So we fought access issues with them.
Did they try to fence you out, or?
Well, you're not familiar with the area, but this road that you guys just came across here, there's a leg of it, it's called the Steens Loop Road. It goes up on the mountain. It's the same 2-lane gravel road, makes a loop around the top of the Steens and back down the other way. My road, driveway road, is the single track road, takes off and goes 400 feet to private property. So they were saying initially that it did not have the right of way for the road. Well, it's been there longer than I have, and access to that property. So again, I had to spend my time looking through the regulations. They were saying that there's no right of way, and I had to file for the right of way. And And then, of course, with the right of way, you gotta pay the fees, a percentage of your intake, of your income to the deal. As I actually found out, my access is casual use.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not making money using the road,
Right.
so it's just casual use, so,
Didn't you have R 24/77?
yeah, so
So they
anyway,
shouldn't be able to charge you anything.
no, so they couldn't, but it took me a long time.
Right.
I don't know that, you know, it
Right, you
gets
still have
better
to
as the time goes on.
Spend your
It takes-
energy and leave what you're doing and
Yeah, I mean,
play
yeah,
lawyer.
exactly.
Right.
Well, I didn't, actually I did on that one to start with. It cost me $8,000 to find out that I had every right to be there and go there.
Dang.
So anyway, it's one thing after another, you know,
Right.
just drilling on you with the goal, like he said, we'll own your property. Then I also had a helicopter at the time, you know, the Steens Act itself, the wilderness and this whole Steens Act, really, I mean, I don't outfit anymore because of it.
Right.
They put stipulations on, well, no off-road snowmobiling. Well, who wants to go snowmobiling up and down the road? So, even though it's just snow up there, we couldn't get off the roads. So that knocked my winter sports thing down. The helicopter, the very next day after the Steens Act passed, I get a letter from this Miles Brown again. I did, with the helicopter, I did scenic tours and occasionally drop people off fishing here or there, you know,
Mhm.
drop camp using the helicopter.
Okay.
So I got a letter immediately following the Steens Act, said, no more helicopter flying on the Steens. So,
Now we have a no-fly zone too.
and I said, okay, well, here's another really interesting one, and this was never investigated either.
You're just after you, aren't they?
Oh yeah, well,
'Cause every time you
I'm
turn
a
around, they
property owner
come.
here, and I'm easier to pick on than some people because they already had me down kicking me for a while, you know.
Yeah.
But they, I was doing trips into the Blitzen Gorge, had my helicopter, but I didn't fly unnecessarily because I do respect other people's rights if they're going into the kind of the back country and, you know, they hike in or horseback in, and so I typically did not fly into those areas or near them. And there's no law against it. Anybody in the United States could fly in and land a helicopter in there. So, but I did it just out of courtesy, and it wasn't even a request from BLM, it was just my own ethics. So this, I was running a trip and had set a camp up, got half of the camp in and set up, and I had an employee that was helping me get hurt, so I didn't have help, and I had to run the trip. 2 days later, I had to get the camp set up. So I'm gonna just throw the rest of the equipment on, camp on my helicopter, fly it in, drop it off, set up, and I'll be done. So I did. I got a call that afternoon after I got back from Miles Brown. Said, was you flying in the Blitzen Gorge today? I said, yep. And he goes, well, you know, that's kind of off limits for flying. I said, no, it's not. There's no law against it. He goes, well, no, but we consider it, you know, off limits to aircraft. And I said, well, you know, I always have too. Until I told him the story. He goes, well, don't do it anymore. I said, okay, so that goes for you too? BLM too? Because you guys fly around up there. Your helicopters occasionally. Goes for us too. And so I still had a little bit of stuff to take in. Because me and Kristen, the next morning, loaded up mule. Okay, we got to go in, do this. Got the trip going. Halfway down the pack trail on the hillside and hear a helicopter coming. So we sit there in the trees, the helicopter comes in, lands at my camp, somebody gets out, walks over to my camp, runs back, gets in the helicopter. On up the canyon they go, and they drop some people off, and we see them getting out of the helicopter. Helicopter leaves, comes back in, a couple of times. It's like, what's he ferrying? You know, there's no more people. But anyway, so we So I got back, and the day before he told me, I said, well, so if I see somebody else, what are we gonna do about it? He goes, well, get an N number and we'll take care of it. So I get back that day, and I called him on the phone. I said, hey, Miles, there was a helicopter flying in Blitzen Gorge today. He goes, oh, really? He goes, do you know who it was? And I said, no. I said, but I did get an N number. I knew who it was. It was a BLM helicopter.
Right.
Give him the N number, and he goes, oh, crap. That must have been those fish guys. They didn't know they weren't supposed to fly in there. I said, that's bullshit, Miles. You knew yesterday. You know, you knew yesterday. You didn't want me flying in there for some reason. And he's kind of got, voice got all quivery and shit. I couldn't add up why he didn't want me there. I knew there was something underlying. So that trip, horseback trip, when we got up in the gorge, we found Purex jugs, empty Purex jugs.
Pure extracts.
Mm-hmm.
Are they bleaching?
The creek. They were doing a fish study, the red band trout.
So they're just killing
So
them.
they're trying to show that the fish numbers are dropping. So how do you get the fish numbers to drop? Throw Purex in the creek.
Sure, kill them.
Mm-hmm.
Dirty or
So I did not watch them dump it in the creek. 99% sure that's exactly what happened. That's what they were doing that day. He did not want anybody to witness that. Had no idea that I was going to be there horseback and actually see him flying. But I wish I'd have walked up to him dumping Purex in the creek. So then I was like, okay, so what do you do about it? Again.
Who do you go to?
Yeah, who do I go to? I
have
can't
no
call Miles
enforcement.
Brown and say, hey, somebody's, and here's the kicker. I called the recreation guy, told him about the event, about Miles going, oh, damn them fish guys. He goes, that's bullshit. He was on the helicopter himself.
Oh my God, are you kidding?
He was on the helicopter.
Oh my gosh.
So he knew a lot about the fish
Oh,
poisoning.
sure he did.
was there ever any? Like, did anybody ever make the connection that there was fish poisoning?
Only me, because it would do trips. No more fishing, you know, much love it.
Right.
People going on the trips, you know, and did it in. Did it in.
Unbelievable.
So I thought I gotta do something about this. Obviously I can't call their line for it. So I called Oregon Trout. And thought, well, maybe, you know, I get some assistance there. Maybe they know who to call them, chicks. And so I talked to this guy, his Oregon Trout, I don't know his name was. Told him the story, and I said, you know, I hate to, they just, I'm 100% sure they poisoned the creek. And he goes, well, when's the first time? And I said, really? He goes, oh, I think it happens quite a bit. And I said, so who do you get a hold of? I mean, how do you turn these guys in? I know who was on that helicopter. Purex jugs weren't there before that. Now there's empty Purex jugs. So I think that we could probably get the pilot to talk and say, yeah, I haul boxes of Purex, you know, in the helicopter. And he goes, do you want to do that?
Did you pull up any, did you gather any of the Purex boxes?
No, there's still some up there. But anyway, so I thought, well, yeah, I want to do something. He goes, there may be big repercussions over this when you cut the wrong guys, you know, so I let it drop. But where do you take it? I mean, who's going to go, okay,
Right.
yeah, the area manager is dumping Purex in the creek, right.
Right, yeah, right.
So, just another,
Representation. No.
Well, no redress, there's no regress.
There's no redress, that's exactly what I
I
mean.
mean, the redress just brings repercussions to the individual.
well, you know, that's the whole thing. I mean, why there isn't more people stand up and say anything, because there will be repercussions.
Basically organized crime, like a mafia.
You know,
So you think
It
that
is.
the
Well-
community and you know, there's a lot of that intimidation.
Oh,
or
absolutely.
It's, I mean, it's intimidation, but it's more than that. I mean, it'll affect their livelihood.
absolutely. Well, you know, you've got guys with permits out here. They're on shaky ground with the Bureau anyway. And if they, you know, if they speak up against them, then they're gonna go, okay, well, you can't turn out for another 2 weeks. You know, I mean, that's,
Right, yeah.
it's totally within their
And then
ability.
next year they won't give you a permit or whatever. When
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for them to just pull the permit for no reason.
Right,
But boy, they can sure manipulate it to where it doesn't work for you.
yeah.
You know, and that's just the thing.
So that's the intimidation. So the ranchers, and nobody can stand up against them because they stop their livelihood. That's really why we want to be here.
Well,
That's really
that's-
wrong.
yeah.
You're wrong.
So, I mean, that's the truth. I mean, there's a lot of people here that have something to say, but they're scared to say it.
They're just trying to stay off
And
the
we-
radar, I guess.
Yeah, there's a few people like,
Well, you got it, they'll cut your throat.
you guys, you know, there's stand up and you say something, but it's still hard to get. If there was some way, and maybe in your,
Thank you. You're welcome. You want some more coffee?
maybe if there's something
Appreciate it.
to come out of what you're doing here, and I suggested this before, that there be a place or a way that you could actually speak without being revealed.
Right,
You know, that, I mean, a
Okay.
committee or
Uh-huh.
somewhere else that you could actually contact and go tell your story. Here's what I saw happen. I saw them lighting the fire. I saw them, or I saw evidence that they dumped Purex in the creek. And so, you know, some way that you can actually.
Call the whistleblowers.
Yeah, speak,
We've got
then
some.
we'll actually-
anonymously, they won't,
right.
yeah.
And
We have
then
those.
assist them to where there is some action taken. So if I'm suggesting that BLM, cause most of these acres to burn, well, then that could go to the appropriate people, and there actually would be an investigation. I mean, there's never an investigation. So
That's
we
the
need to-
problem. You have nobody to.
it would change the climate out here a lot if there was some accountability on their side and some investigation.
I would imagine too, like these fires that have happened and stuff, not only you know about them, but other people know about them. So if they knew that they could cooperate with someone else
Mhm.
anonymously,
Well, even firefighters themselves that don't believe in what's happened, and
Right.
believe in what they've done, but they can't say anything either.
Right.
It's their job.
It's
I
the
mean,
job.
They're gonna
We're
lose
just
their
doing my job.
Right.
They're gonna get,
Oh, I hear that
Yeah.
so much. I'm just
So-
doing my job.
if there was some system in place, and maybe that's something that you can bring out of this, if there
Right.
needs to be a
That's
system in
good
place.
to know, 'cause
He's
I-
not giving up.
Good. Well, one of the things that we kind of felt that we needed to do is come in there and kind of soften out that place and give the people enough confidence to say, hey, look, you know, there,
You can stand up.
yeah, you can stand up and you can say no, and you guys have the right to do it, and to give them some, give them some strength to do it. I mean.
Mhm.
So we, that's one of the reasons we did what we did. I mean, we saw just the Hammond case alone, but then when we started looking out, and we hadn't even talked to you, and I mean, we just see
It's
that
a
this place
replay
is
of what's happening to
place is a damn-
Utah and
it's a damn-
Nevada.
damn mess.
It is.
Yeah, and
terrible.
then it's the same thing that's going on down there.
Mhm.
Well,
So,
it's everywhere, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because they
Valley
become
can-
so strong that we can't.
Yeah. Well, it's all done under the disguise of, we're protecting
Stop talking.
Yeah.
wildlife.
yeah,
It doesn't make any difference whether I own land there or not to do with the wildlife. Actually, the wildlife thrive better with me owning the land, because
absolutely. That's been proven.
That's why they're here in the first place.
it's not just here, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if you can get people, the momentum built up, you just get that momentum.
Yeah, but the real problem here, and that's what we keep saying, is that these lands are not protected under the Constitution. There is no place in the Constitution for the federal government to own vast amounts of land.
Right.
I mean, they're supposed to own.
Dockyards.
They're supposed to own, arsenals, dockyards, military bases, and a few other buildings. That was it in the state, and they were supposed to get the state legislature's approval, and they have to purchase it. So the federal government has very small constitutional authority to own land, and they did that. The founders did that because they knew that this is exactly what would happen. Federal government doesn't have a structure for the people to be protected. It is not made for that, you know. They're made to protect the country from the outside world, and their laws are like protecting like people, terrorists coming in. That's why they
And let
start.
the people do.
Fight
what
them
they
dollars
do
for the
in
Syrian
here.
Group.
States' rights. We gotta go
Exactly.
back to the states'
That's
rights.
why an individual should never
You
be
really
pulled
got
up into a
press,
federal
yeah.
court. They should be. I mean, they're supposed to be tried.
Yeah, I think it is on that. There
They're
you go.
supposed to be tried in the county. There should be no reason unless somebody, unless there's two individuals. So the way our founder set this up, and you may know this, so I might do that. But so two individuals have a right to work it out themselves first, and if they can't work it out, then they go to the county. And as long as they belong in the same county, they go to the county. Now, if there's an individual that has a problem with somebody in another county, then they go to the state, because we're talking two counties, so the state. And or if two counties have a problem with each other, you know, there's a dispute between whatever county line or a road or whatever, which doesn't happen very often, then they go appeal to the state. And so then if you have an individual who's got a problem with another individual in another state, then that's when they have authority to go to that's when jurisdiction falls under the federal government. Okay? But not until then, or if two states have a problem with each other. Okay? The problem we have here is the federal government's come in unconstitutionally and claimed land, right? Well, the Constitution, of course, says that if there's any problem with, if there's any dispute about federal control or so forth, then it goes to the federal court. But the thing is they weren't supposed to be there in the first place. Right. So you shouldn't have to be going to fight in the BLM in their federal courts, because the BLM shouldn't be there. Right. And that's the problem. And hopefully that makes sense what I just said.
Yeah.
Because they have constitutional authority to bring any issue they have up into their own courts, but they don't have authority to be in the state controlling the land and resources.
So rightfully, I mean, anything that isn't private land, and a lot of this country, you know, wasn't homesteaded because it's just scab land.
Sure.
But if it's not privately owned, then it should be
State.
controlled by the state.
State.
Well, yeah, but the county's more accurate though, because
they're closest to it.
It is state, but it's county the one who should be
So
like
taking care of it, managing it.
Privately owned lands here, instead of being BLM administered, should be administered by our own county.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be administered the way the BLM, because what you have is and you know, you don't have to unwind this very far to figure it out, but you would rather than being a permittee or being privileged, as they say, having the privilege, you would own the right, and it'd be like you would own the grazing right. Okay,
So you can do it how you want.
you could do it how you want, and the only time that you could be like summoned to a court or pulled into a court is if somebody else with a right, you were violating that right. You know, so let's
Like
say
they had a mine.
yeah, let's say you have the grazing, and let's say you got 100 square miles of grazing, right? Or maybe that's down there, that's not too big, but maybe that's too big up here. But anyway, you get 10 square miles or whatever. You own the forage. You own the right to graze it, and that right is yours, is vested. You have the deed to it, and it's yours. You also might own the water right on it, or part of the water right, or whatever. And then there might be a mine on it, let's say, or whatever. Or let's say that, yeah, just stick with a mine or whatever. And you, and he goes and starts to run a bunch of sheep on it or something. Well, then you have a right to take him because he's violating your right. But the thing is then you guys can work it out yourself first. You guys work, hey, that's my guy, and he stops it. If he doesn't, then you would go to the county. That's it. And the county would resolve the issue at that level. But the county doesn't come down there and actually manage the land. That's what the individuals do. Like, you know, you don't replace masters.
Right.
But then, and that's how it's supposed to work. Constitutionally, that's how it's supposed to work.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, somehow or another, the federal government has weaseled their way right back. I mean, we took it from the Indians. I mean, the federal government
Right.
Now that we got it from them, the federal government wants it from us. I mean, whoever has it, they wanna take it. I don't understand that mindset. You know, and Miles Brown's mindset,
Right.
we wanna own all the land and control all the uses.
And who's the
I
we,
don't
BLM?
And I said, yeah, who's we? I said, who's we? And he goes, well,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder what group he belongs to that's infiltrated
Right.
into the BLM. I mean, who's we? Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then you can't, it's hard to tell where, you know, some of these environmentalist group and the other ones begin, and the BLM begins, or the,
Well, that's
You
it. I
know.
mean, how many BLM employees that are out here to manage me are on the Oregon National Desert Association?
Yeah,
The whole
exactly.
goal is they're cow-free, you know, no cows, no. well,
That's
no
their
more
whole
left,
purpose.
but Oregon National Desert Association will state it straightforward too.
ours,
All you people leave here, move to Portland, we don't want you out here.
the Southern Nevada district in their BLM office, they had a logo that said "No moo by '92, cattle free by '93."
Yeah.
And,
King County was
that was
2003,
the- that
cattle
was-
free 2003.
that
They
was the year
chanted.
my dad ended his permit and never paid it again.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely overtaking it. So how do you, hopefully, that when you get the state, to the light, I mean, the media, I don't know about the media is going to distort it.
Well, we'll bring it to light. The problem is, what do we do after that? We're trying to help you guys get up there on that land and take back those rights that are rightfully yours, instead of letting this federal government continue their abuses. We can only help you. It's kind of like I said, we sent soldiers into Afghanistan to help the people that were being suppressed, and they stand up and take votes and got their vote in and everything. But what happens when we back out if people don't stand up? So we're trying to get people. That's our mission,
There
is
is
to
a
help
difference.
people.
there's a difference in that. At least there should be,
Well,
because what they did.
because we wanted.
Well, they went in there though, and they supposedly liberated those people, but they never gave them access to their land and resources. They went in and they said, well, we've got to pay for our war, so we're going to take all your oil and we're going to take this. So, I mean, the people are not going to be able to stand up and be free if they can't use the lands and the resources and so.
Well,
That's true.
here's one of the things that comes up every time. I mean, when we were getting our refuge terminated back in
The
73.
permit or whatever.
Well, yeah, when 73 we had to move off, and then Jigs Barnes got it in 75. They didn't take us all at once.
That's it. United we stand, divided we fall.
Yeah.
One
and
at
so
a
we tried
time.
to get everybody going, okay, this is going to happen to you guys too. And the other permittees, seeing that things were going to get cut back, to jump on the bandwagon, stand up right then, right from the start. Well, inevitably, Joe's going, well, they aren't bothering me. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. In fact is, they give me another field, and that's how they do it.
Oh,
They
sure.
Up Joe's
Dangle the
hand
carrot.
a little bit, go, you
Yeah.
take another field here, and we're going to take Bill's stuff away. So nobody will, they know how to do that.
Right.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
actually, the gal went through the Birds BLM here, started work for the BLM, but she had to go take a week of conflict management courses.
Gee, Merry Christmas.
And she thought,
They're preparing
okay,
for it, right?
He's gonna
you'll
have
learn
it.
how to, if there's somebody fighting somebody, you gotta calm them down. It's the opposite. It's how to stir up shit,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
to get them in a fight.
No kidding.
Yeah, she said she was just jaw dropped. Conflict management is what it's called, but it's how to
Stir it up.
How to manipulate and take and then.
My gosh, that's crazy.
So yeah, I mean it's all over. It is difficult to get people to hear together enough to.
Sometimes it takes a lot of screaming and yelling. That's what happened in Kane County, because that's exactly what happened with us. And I said,